Sunday afternoon. We had just finished our first communion group as part of Koinonia. And some of the youth that were gathered around me were talking about how A, the bread was really good. I had gotten a nice Italian bread from the store. But B, they talked about how, remember a couple years ago we were at Caswell, we had that really good communion bread. It was so good. I knew what they were talking about. That year our theme was table. And everything we ate, we tried to be really intentional about where it came from. Try to use local restaurants or local farmers, and the bread came from a local bakery. And we had some parents who were gracious enough to go out of the way to go get it, enough for the whole weekend. And I remember that bread. It was so good. Of course, bread's my favorite food, so I'm always very thoughtful about the bread I'm eating, probably eating too much of, but loving every bite. Bread's also all across the Bible. Of course, we think about bread being what manna was, although at the time they said, "What is this?" So maybe it wasn't bread-like, but that's what we imagine. And Jesus was born in Bethlehem, which literally translates house of bread. Of course, this child that would become the bread of life for us began this Christian practice of Holy Communion, the Lord's Supper, where we take this common bread and it represents his body was broken for us on the cross. So bread is so essential, not just to our life, but as Christians, this imagery of bread, this commonplace thing that's everywhere, and yet it becomes something so much more when we break it in communion. So that got me thinking about the ability for little pieces of bread to nourish us, to fill us up in ways that are kind of extraordinary. And that got me thinking about my favorite author, and this is my favorite stories, which comes from the Lord of the Rings. And you don't have to have seen Lord of the Rings or watched it, seen it or read it, but you can. It's great. But there's this thing called elven bread, limbus, and it's given to the hobbits when they are on their journey by the elves in Rivendell. It's given to them to sustain them, and all they need is a few pieces. And two of the hobbits, they get split from their company. They actually get captured, and they are famished, broken, worn down, and they find pieces of this limbus, this elven bread. And this is what the text says. This is from the book The Two Towers. It says, "The cakes were broken, but still good, still in their leaf wrappings. The hobbits each ate 2 or 3 pieces. The taste brought back to them the memory of fair faces and laughter, and a wholesome food in quiet days now far away. For a while they ate thoughtfully, sitting in the dark, heedless of the cries and sounds of battles nearby." In this story, limbus is not communion bread. Christ is not in this story, but Tolkien, the author, was a devout Christian. And certainly the idea and the practice, a sacred practice of communion, that sacrament, was what was in his mind when he thought of this idea of limbus. And I hope and pray that as we gather each Sunday, those who are able to share communion, that the bread can be something like that, more than that, something that's healing, that's powerful, that's potent, that can carry us through times that may be dark, even if the sounds of battles and hard times are outside our earshot. But the bread can bring to us the memory of Christ, and that can be the life we need to keep us going for the journey. Peace of Christ be with you.